I think largely what you're going to see from Donald Trump now, a lot of this stuff, it's kind of red meat that you feed to your base in order to get elected. But I think Donald Trump realized when he was president of the United States that despite whatever principles or policies or proposals that you may have, the federal government will do what the federal government wants to do. So there are natural constraints around the presidency of the United States. So I don't think that we have to worry about Donald Trump being able to encourage the Department of Justice to go after his quote unquote political enemies. I think that they're going to focus on what many people have seen or felt as if the weaponization of the Department of Justice and even the FBI, and it didn't just start with Donald Trump, it started decades and decades. We can even go back to the civil rights era to find out how the Department of Justice has been weaponized. So I think it's going to be more a focus on that, much less than going after his political enemies.
And you think about the language, and you said grace, so I think that's the perfect word. Theryn, over the last few years, you heard Democrats very outspoken saying it was MAGA Republicans who were a threat. Pew Research showing that trust in the DOJ and FBI has been dwindling. A little over half of Democrats and only 33% of Republicans actually support the current Department of Justice, and that may be even different today. But for a lot of Americans, they saw what they believed to be imbalanced scales of justice when it came to how American citizens have been treated, even investigated in this country and incarcerated, and then how illegal immigrants, just as one example, including criminals, were getting a free pass. How do we restore trust in the DOJ?
So we have to restore trust in the DOJ by having equitable justice. And what I mean by that is this country has a very skewed perspective of the justice system because we see somebody that's very elite, very powerful, very rich financially and literally in President-elect Trump, and how he had 34 convictions, yet he was still allowed to run for president and thus win. But then we also see Black and brown folks who are negatively impacted by the justice system through police brutality, and seeing so many of those members of law enforcement and get off. So depending on who you talk to and depending on what issue matters to them, that's going to help form their perspective of the justice system. But when we look at somebody like President-elect Trump becoming president for a second term, then what we see is someone who did all the wrong things, who was able to say what he wanted to say, do what he wanted to do, skirt the justice system, and still come out on top. And if that's going to be the case for him, then every American wants to have that same case happen for them. They want to be able to do what they want, say what they want, and receive the red carpet rolled out for them. But that's not going to be the case. And President-elect Trump has already said he is going to get back at his enemies, get back at those who threw punches at him. And we have to believe them. Right now, if he's walking things back, it's only temporarily, and likely because he's still upset about Matt Gaetz' withdrawal. But now he knows that he has to get somebody else in there, and he wants the rest of his cabinet picks selected.
Let's move on to some of those cabinet picks, including Russell Vought, chosen to lead the Office of Management and Budget. Vought co-authored Project 2025, the ultra-conservative think tank Heritage Foundation releasing that, which caused a lot of a stir among critics of President Trump all along the campaign trail. Melik, what do we know about Vought?
Oh, well, one of the things, or many of the things that we know about him is, first of all, under the previous Donald Trump administration, he was not only the deputy director at OMB, he was the acting director at OMB, and he eventually became the director of OMB. So he's essentially just getting his old job back. And with respect to Project 2025, yeah, he was one of the authors of, I think, one of the policy manuals or policy chapters in Project 2025. But I'm going to get the name wrong. It's called the Center for American Renewal, or whatever this organization that he founded. The organization was founded in order to push forward Donald Trump's policies, and even on things like the Department of Education. His own organization, they're not calling for the Department of Education to end. What he's calling for are some programming at the Department of Education to end. So even what he's doing personally in his own capacity running his organization, he's not doing a lot of the things that are those negative inferences or references people have made to Project 2025. He's not doing that himself. So it's no surprise that the former OMB director is getting his job back.
Okay. Thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.